Hello, and welcome back to the Oh My Gosh, You're Glowing podcast. My name is Lindsey Walker, and today we have our very first guest on this podcast. If you're watching the video, you already see him here, so you can't really hide him anymore. But if you are listening, he will be introduced in just a moment. I'm very excited to start having guest episodes on here. They're going to be sprinkled in, as well as I will continue with my solo riffing episodes, so don't worry, those are not going away. But for the very first guest episode, it was super special for me to have someone very, very important on in my life. And that is my incredible husband and dog father, which our dog is literally sitting here. Back here, Major is going to be in the space. You might see him walking around the video. But my husband, Jared Walker, is here with us today. So, Jared, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here. This is our most authentic setting. Usually it's just you and I, and then the dog is just somewhere straddled behind us. So this is us.
This is really us right here. Again, if you're watching the video, we're playing past the mic because I only have one. So as per usual, it is as real and raw as it gets around here. We are just in my office with our dog and just wanting to have a good conversation with you guys today. He has a story and a point of view of something he went through that I really wanted to bring to the podcast, to the episode, and also just infuse some masculine energy into the episode because obviously it's usually just me, which certainly I have some masculine energy, but generally speaking, there's a lot of femininity in here. So we needed to balance it out with a guest. So Jared, thank you so much for being here and welcome. And this is your very first podcast that you've ever done as well. So I feel really, really special and honored that you are on this one for the very first time.
So am I. I mean, I thought Joe Rogan experience but this is a lot better than that. So I went right straight to the top. So thank you.
I'm sorry, this is not the Joe Rogan experience. This is so much better. Maybe you'll get there. I can feel that. So you know that this podcast is called the Oh My Gosh, You're Glowing podcast because I really want it to reflect and talk about stories and information to help people really glow from the inside out. Now, this is usually a little bit more of a feminine statement. It's more geared towards women, which is honestly the main group of my community. However, I know there's a lot of men out there who listen to this podcast. And with you being on this podcast, I know I've asked you this, but I want you to tell the listeners and tell the community, what is your version or the masculine version of a glow up or saying you're glowing? Like, what do guys say that is kind of the masculine side of women?
Yeah, well, I don't think it's a glow up for men. I've never said that to my boys before. How's the glow up going? But I mean, I guess some guys could, see that differently. I saw the other day somebody is hosting a retreat. I know in the near future, and he had a good phrase. I thought because the whole idea of this retreat is to kind of get with a bunch of guys and get out in Alaska and do outdoor stuff and then some physical therapy stuff like hiking, hot, cold therapies, things like that. But I thought he called it really good what I was thinking before when you asked me this question recently. And a hard reset, I think, is would be an appropriate term because similar to what you would call a glow up amongst the more feminine community, it's a chance for men to kind of assess, parts of their life, maybe mentally, physically, spiritually, that they want to change and reset. Because maybe just due to comforting lifestyles or just going in directions that are not in the best ideas of their overall lives and health, and a hard reset, just like cut it right down the middle. I think it's probably the best term for that, and that's what I would call it.
Nice. No, I like that. And it has that like rebirth energy that is kind of what fuels a glow up for women. So I really like that, the hard reset. That's a good one. So thank you. Coming from our masculine representative here. Thank you.
I would say, like, it's funny. I know this is a more feminine energy space. I come to this office often, and I guess I never really sit in this desk and notice. You can't really see him here if you're watching this, but all of the rocks and basically it looks like a geological find, like in this place. But the way I see it as in my own state is like what's that? Indiana Jones in the Last Crusade when he's trying to find like the Holy Grail amongst all like the different like trinkets and gold and stuff. I'm afraid I'm gonna pick up one of these and like turn to ash or something if I grab the wrong rock. But yeah, no, it's a great space you have here.
Oh, well, thank you. Yes. I know, yeah, like you said, you can't see, but this entire desk, it's this L-shaped desk, and most of it is covered in rocks and crystals right now. So it's funny because, yeah, I think you just come in here and kind of like sit in the corner and chat with me, and you've never been just like sitting in this space for a long time. And all of a sudden, it's like when you don't even realize like what has been right in front of you this whole time, and you sit down and finally are just like in the space, you're like grounded and present. You're like, has this been here the whole time? It's a great space. We're very protected. There's lots of crystals, lots of good energy around here. And yeah, it's a good space.
Yeah, that and the 98-pound, wild animal that's sitting behind us is good for protection.
Yeah, he just left. I'm sure he'll be back. He's in and out. So hopefully you didn't hear his carpet scratching, but he was right in front of us when we were doing mic tests earlier. So he's incredibly attached, but a good boy. All right. So I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself a little bit more and just share anything, even before we get into the story that I really want to bring forth. And just for like a little teaser for you to stick around, this is about how really Jared went through an experience and a journey of healing his lower back. So that's all I'm going to say, because it's very multidimensional. It's very layered. And I think he has a really great approach on it and had a lot of interesting experiences along the way. But before we get into that, is there anything else you want to say as far as introducing yourself, something that you want the listeners to know before we dive into this story? If not, that's totally fine, because you're giving me a look like I didn't prep you for it, which I definitely did not. I prepped you for very little.
No, yeah, on the spot. That's fun. No, I mean, you said the most important things to me earlier. That's being your husband, and then being the best dog father that I can be right now. I guess leading up to the story that's going to be told later, I work in a very generic corporate setting. I work by, I feel like that scene in Office Space where Peter's talking to Jennifer Aniston. He's like, I sit in the cubicle all day. That's kind of basically what I do. I mean, I've kind of modified it in a way to where it's a little healthier for me, but yeah, like a lot of people, I think I read recently, it's like 80% of the jobs now in the US are desk jobs. And so that's me. I'm an IT engineer. So I spend a lot of time, in my desk in front of the blue screens and doing that type of work. And for a long time, I basically just thought that, I could compensate for that, 8 hours a day that I was sitting and staring into a blue screen hunched over could be made up by, 30 to 45 minutes of working out with weights. And while that certainly is a good thing, I think, for me, I wasn't really taking total control of my health overall, physically, mentally as well. And so I think that caught up with me as I got a little bit older. When you're young, you can kind of get away with younger. I feel like I'm still young, but get away with.
He's not old.
Okay. 36 young still. But I noticed though, as I didn't get a little bit older in age, my body was starting to kind of reject a lot of the, easy recovery that I had before in the lifestyle I was living. So, yeah, I guess one of the things this is one of many things that's happened in my life where I've had opportunities to assess moments like that have been hard and, kind of take a look and re-examine myself, like, what am I not doing right with the body I have to live the longest, healthiest life I can. So, yeah, I mean, I've spent, a lot of time recently kind of having opportunities like that. And then being with you and married to you helped me kind of re-examine those from a different perspective. So, but I'm blessed.
Yeah, I think a lot of us go on this journey of realizing that our intense 1 hour workouts do not make up for the 8 hours that we've been sitting in a desk in a chair staring at a screen the whole time. And so I think we all just kind of eventually realize what our bodies are actually needing in different ways. And what I find, and you kind of alluded to this too, like you've had different experiences that have led you to learn different things about yourself and about your body. And it's always, the symptoms always show up in a, I like to say weaker place of the body, but it's really not that you're weak. It's just that there is a spot in your body where you're supposed to learn lessons and really pay attention to. And that is just a place of less strength. And so that's really where those spots you'll feel it the most. And each of us have a different place on the body, a different message that we're supposed to receive, a different path we're supposed to go down. But ultimately, it's very similar energy of like, hey, you can't just use this 60 minutes of your day to wash away all of the things that you did not do for the whole day to support yourself. So yeah, we all learn it in different ways. And you certainly, I've witnessed, and this is why I wanted to bring this conversation to the podcast, because I've witnessed a lot of evolution of you, especially with this lower back. I feel like it's like your Achilles heel of life. And what we started dating, is it 8 years ago?
It was around this time, 2017, 8 years ago. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think since then, this lower back has been a thing for you, even before that, right?
Yeah. So I always had kind of getting until about, I guess, 10 years ago, kind of mild back issues. I played sports growing up, basketball. I grew up in North Carolina, so basketball's king, and I still love the game. But I played then, and I was always very, very small. I think when I graduated high school, I was like about as tall as I am now, which is about 6 feet. And then I was only 135 pounds. I was very, very skinny. I was bumping up against guys, a lot bigger than I was. And, I'm sure after a while, things were getting shifted around. And I had some mild stuff in college here and there. I think just some minor kind of like upper lower back stuff, from just doing stupid things. But nothing too terrible. It wasn't until I think it was about 10 years ago when I had an episode where I was, again, kind of the same lifestyle I had, working at a desk, probably not hydrating appropriately, lifting heavy weights with my gym. And I had one episode where I woke up the next morning after doing a pretty heavy lifting session with a couple of friends of mine, I remember, and my lower back was just in an unreal amount of pain. It was the point where I was not able to stand up straight at all. I had a hard time getting out of bed. It hurt to sit down, just any kind of extreme movement. It was incredible back spasms, I think is the right term. And I thought it was, for the longest time, it was just exaggerated tightness from my body, just muscles kind of trying to protect my, vertebrae and things like that. And just found out recently ended up being something completely different. But anyways, yeah, I had and I was young enough, again, I was able to kind of recover from that, like a week or so. I would ice it and rest and just be in extreme pain. And then I would get past it and get back at it and move on again and start working out and doing the same things. But kind of trying to put in the back of my mind, okay, maybe I'll just do it differently next time, or I'll be more conscious next time. And that happened probably for, what was it? I think it was last year was 2024. So about 9 years, that was kind of the thing. Every 6 to 9 months, I would have like one of these episodes, a week or so, I would take off and then move on again. Well, it was this past fall. I went to a fitness event in New York with a brand.
Wait, before you get into that, I want to stop you only because I feel like that's like the line in the sand, like that event where you're about to talk about. Yeah. So the events before all of that, basically you would have some type of back injury. You would be kind of walking around like an old man and like really struggling. I'm not trying to make fun of you. I just witnessed it. It was sad and like frustrating to see for me too, because it felt like I couldn't help you. But you would kind of, like you said, rest for a week and then literally go right back into the exact same routine that you were doing this entire time. So it was like it would get louder and louder, and you would do the same thing, louder and louder, and you do the same thing. Would you agree?
Yeah, that's 100% accurate. I mean, I would have, episodes for about a week and a half, and I'm sure it was really hard to look at because I know
Right.
I didn't like the way I looked, just kind of hunched over and kind of shuffling along. And yeah, no, it looked like an old man, no way around it. Yeah.
But I also know from like a emotional and mental standpoint, like that was struggling for you as well and frustrating just from a man's point of view. Like that was hard to, literally feeling like you're crunched over and feeling like you can't lift anything, feeling like you can't help. And I know that that can really impact your mindset as well because of how your body is functioning or lack thereof.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm all about long-term health. My goal with, doing all this working out and stuff beforehand is that I'll be, 80 or 90 and still able to walk around and, do stuff and not be bound to a wheelchair or, a bed or something. It's just unfortunately becoming more and more prevalent now. And for a lot of people, it happens when they get older. But I think that, you know, there's a lot of opportunity now to set the groundwork to be able to live a long, healthy life. And it's that certainly mentally that didn't help either because I would get, instead of kind of trying to relax in the moment and like, recover and heal and assess what's going on, I would just get mad and frustrated and, do really kind of stupid, irrational things because I'd be mad at my back. Like, why is my back doing this? I take care of it and do all the right things. And, yeah, so lots of frustration contributing.
Yeah, and I talk about that a lot too. It's a hard thing when you're feeling, whether it's back pain, whether it's other symptoms, stomach issues. It could be a whole list of things that people start to think, oh my gosh, I'm broken. What's wrong with me? And then it turns into this frustrating mindset where now you feel like you're broken, you don't know what's going on, and now it really transitions into a stressed out mind as well, which your mind creates your life and your reality and your body, so it's really just like this snowball effect. So you started to go into it, and I want you to tell this story because I feel like this part of the story in the fall, with starting with this event and what happened when you came back, was, I've never seen, because I've witnessed this for many, many years of you going on this path of injuring your back, coming back, injuring your back, coming back. It's just been this cycle. And this one seemed different. So one, I want you to just kind of explain what happened and how it felt differently. And then we'll obviously go into kind of how you moved through it this time and why it was so different. Because I want to hear from you what finally literally broke the back. Like, what was it? I know. I'm sorry, I had to. But like, what was it that just, what made this time different?
Yeah, so I think it was last summer. Last year, I really felt like I had a good grasp on my overall health. I feel better than ever. I remember going into that year, I had changed some things just in terms of hydration and minerals. I'm sure it'll be in another podcast. And
It's already recorded.
yeah. And just doing a lot of things differently, mobility, and I felt really good, the best I'd ever felt. And I was 35 last summer, and I was feeling really good. And I remember there's a men's fitness brand that I have been a customer of from a while now, I guess 3 or 4 years, called 10,000. And I saw they were doing an event in New York, and I was kind of contemplating going. It was like a fitness summit where they had like workouts and speakers and, you know, meals and things like that. And I was kind of contemplating going, and it was kind of out of my element and, something that was a little bit intimidating just kind of go to on my own because I had never really done anything like that. And then I remember I was contemplating this, and then about a month after, I got an email from one of the guys at the company saying, I think basically like, hey, we noticed you've been a long time customer, and I'm sure because I spent just like a bunch of money with the company, but I mean, no, I appreciate it. I mean, by the way, just a quick plug, they're a great brand if you're shopping for somebody or if you're a man looking for fitness gear. 10,000 is great. I mean, bar none. But he reached out and said, hey, we're doing this event. We'd love for you to come out. Seen you've been a long time customer, and be great to have you. It's gonna be a great weekend in New York. And so
It's the universe just like pushing.
yeah, that was like the little nudge I needed. So like, all right, sold. I'll do it. And so I ended up going in September, and it was a great weekend. Met some great people. Just felt good. I mean, I felt like my body just held up great. I mean, all the work I'd put in before it had paid off. I was able to do all kinds of things and all the workouts and,
And just so you don't like kind of skim over this, you did a lot of workouts. This wasn't like one workout. This was multiple workouts like the whole weekend. You guys were up at what, 5 a.m.? Like this was intense. He's making it seem like it was this casual workout event. It was intense from what I hear, and I wasn't even there.
yeah, it was, we had a couple days that were like 2-day workouts, did like a 10K run across the Brooklyn Bridge, some track workouts, CrossFit style weights.
Casual.
It was just a bunch of stuff. It was a lot. Yeah. And so,
But they recovered you guys too, right?
oh yeah, we did a lot of recovery sessions. It was just an all around one of the best weekends I've had. It was really fun. Anyways, that Sunday afternoon, I flew home and I was just in really good spirits. I remember even because like New York at that time was just really kind of gloomy and rainy. And I got in the plane and I flew home to sunny San Antonio and I was stoked. And I remember you and the dog picked me up at the airport. Was just feeling really good. And then I remember the next day I was like, well, I should probably take like a rest day or so. And then I was just like, no, I was like, I'm gonna push through this.
So I want you to pause there because I would like to give my reflection when you came back, because I told him this. He literally looked different. Like your facial structure looked completely different. It was like what he was feeling inside, I was seeing on the outside. His eyes were brighter, your face was brighter. Like not only could I tell from like your mood and how you were just walking in the day, but your face looked different because when you left, it was just this very like frustrated, like, I don't know, sad, just like, was a very dark look. And you came back and it was like someone put the light back in you. And I saw that from the outside.
Yeah, well, I certainly felt that way on the inside. I felt really good coming back. I was just in good energy, really optimistic about, the future. And anyways, that was Sunday I got back, and that Monday I remember I was like, I'm gonna go work out. I mean, I go to a CrossFit gym nearby, and so I was like, I'm gonna go, do the workout today. I feel like I could do it. I'm gonna push through it. I did all these workouts this weekend. I can do it. And so I did it on that Monday and just felt good energy. And the next day I was like, you know what, I'm feeling sore, but I can still do it. I'm gonna push through another workout. And so I went and worked out again on Tuesday. My body at this point is really telling me, hey, look, chill out, man. Like it's, you've pushed it pretty hard just through the weekend, early mornings, 2-a-days, flying, travel, come back and push it. Like my body was very much telling me at that point, just based on like soreness and, it was time to take like a rest day or two and just chill out. And I remember that Wednesday.
This is where it's my fault now.
I wasn't gonna say anything, but now I am.
No, go ahead. It's okay. It's okay.
Well, Wednesday at that time we were doing like a squat cycle in my gym. I didn't want to miss it because I had missed it like the week before, I think. And I remember you wanted to go as well, and so I was real excited about that because we don't do a lot of workouts together anymore because we have our own respective gyms with workouts that align to us more. And so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go, and I'll just I'll scale it down, or I'll lighten the weight if I have to, and I'll make it work. And I remember I got there and I started lifting, and just like halfway through my sets, I just felt my back like tighten up really bad. That feeling I usually get or used to get before. I hadn't had in like a year or so, too, at that point. And at least a year or so, I think, before I'd had an episode like that. At least a year, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and so I knew exactly what happened. I was like, I overdid it. It didn't even surprise me in the moment. I was like, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, that happened. It was like, no, this was coming. This was stupid. I pushed it. And immediately I remember just feeling really frustrated and just like my mood changed. It was like some part of me just like really thought like, oh, you're invincible, come up this weekend. And then like quickly it was just this huge crash. And if you want me to continue.
So yeah, we'll stop there for a minute. So one, like I saw you come back from the weekend. You're like this whole new human from the inside out. And one, I will also say, I'm just so glad that you were able to see the power of in-person events, because I had been singing the in-person event song for many, many years. And then you went and experienced your own version and had a very similar experience. So that was really cool for me to see. When you came back, it was like, and I know that feeling of coming back from an event. You're on this high and you're like, how do I keep this high? And then you have to go back to work and you're like, fuck, I think it's gone now. I think it just disappeared into my computer, because now you're not, you're not around the people you were around, the inspiration you did. They had a lot of inspirational talks. You're around all these guys who are hyping you up. It's like your people, your community. And it's just this whole other level. I know a lot of them are entrepreneurs too. So they have just like a different mindset of self-development, self-growth. And being in a room like that, I mean, I'm the person that talks about living Brave Live all the time. It's the male version of it, of the women's version, in my personal opinion. That's not like official. But, getting on that high and then coming back, and you're trying to sustain that high. And then you're trying to sustain the high with the workouts and like being in that environment. And at some point, it's like, I read the book, what was it, The Big Leap? Yeah, I think that's the one where like basically it talks about your upper limit. And so if you're like feeling too good, you feel like you are feeling too good in life and you haven't allowed yourself to ever feel this good before, you upper limit, which is basically saying like your body cannot hold this much good feeling in your body, in your life, and you eventually like manifest something bad to re-regulate your nervous system. So I think it was that combined with, like you were saying, the overdoing it, your body's screaming at you, hey, rest, like we need to stop, like this is not good anymore. And you're just like, no, let's keep going, keep going. I, of course, added to the fire when I was like, hey, I want to go to which I don't go to CrossFit anymore. And so I was like just feeling really inspired by the workout, wanted to go do some squats. And of course, he was super excited. And I think that just fueled the fire, which I think back to it too. And I was like, I think, I would just really was inspired to go that day. I didn't realize how sore you were. And it just like, you were on such a high from the outside. Like it didn't occur to me that you hadn't rested at all. And, it just didn't occur to me. And, sometimes we have other people come in our lives and kind of like nudge us in the direction that we're meant to go, whether you see that as good or bad. And it's almost like I was like the person to just like tip you off the edge because you were definitely going to listen to that. Like if I wouldn't have gone that day, you probably wouldn't have gone.
No, I wouldn't have.
Yeah. So I think that there was like this opportunity because you just experienced this incredible high. And your body was like, I don't think we can hold it. Your mind wanted to hold it because I watched it. You were like, I have got to hang on to this. And your body was like, oh no, we're so used to just like crumbling after this. Like, where's the crumble? And it's like, oh, okay, we're just going to go create it by like not stopping. So, okay, so you go into, now it's like you've like, not only is the back pain now happening because you've re-injured the back, but it's not a regular experience. You've gone from this high to the lowest of lows. It's like the polar opposites, like the extreme polar opposites, which I don't think has ever really happened before, right? Okay. So we're now at extreme polar opposites, the highest high to the lowest low in the matter of like 3 days. So you mentioned you're frustrated. You were, really mad at yourself. I know that you had been saying like, gosh, what happened to my body? Like, there's all these things. Now, between then, and I don't know the whole timeline of this because there was another event and I don't know at what point that came into your awareness. So what happened after you literally fall from the highest high you've been on in a while into this back pain? What happens after that? And is it an immediate change or does it take a while? Like what's going through your mind at that time?
Yeah, so I guess at that point that this happened when I thought I just strained my back again, which ended up, I think, not really being a strain, finding out later on. But I thought, okay, I was more mad at my mindset instead of my body because I knew it was kind of a foolish thing for pushing myself that hard, not listening to my body's reactions. And so I thought, okay, well, in the past a week or so, ice it, rest it, and we'll get back at it. And then, a week went by, didn't feel much better. 2 weeks went by, still not feeling great. I'm like, this is not normal. Um, I think it's about 3 weeks, and it started subsiding a little bit, the pain. And I was like, maybe I just need to get some blood flow. Maybe I just need to get in the gym. I'll start moving around. My body will just kind of acclimate. We'll be good. At this point, I haven't been doing much, just walking the dog, um, and just mostly just resting it, not doing too much. And then, so about 3 weeks went by, and so I go back to the gym, and we're doing a workout, and I'm going a little lighter anyways. Not going super heavy, and I end up like just throwing it out again. And that's when I think I came home, and I was really starting to kind of be in a mental funk. Like, what is wrong? Like, this is not what usually happens. This is not the usual trend of like, oh, get injured and rest a week, get back at it, and then go. So um, that was challenging. And so then I changed everything up. I turned off my membership at the gym, went to a punch card, because I didn't have a whole lot of faith in my back, getting healthy enough to go regularly. I didn't want that pressure, and so um, ended up just doing a lot more, just kind of walking and resting at home, not doing anything really high intense, which I like more high intense types of workouts occasionally, to fill in as well. But even just normal stuff with like weights or everyday stuff, I felt my back was still not 100%. So it started to worry me. It started to be really concerning because it was something new. And then 1 month came by, 2 months came by, 3 months came by. And basically through the end of the year, my back was not feeling better at all. But I would say that last month before the year, I had sort of a little bit of a mental awakening on some things, some opportunities in my life. And for me, that was, I'd put so much in the South. I don't know where else I say this, but I know where I grew up in North Carolina, they talk about don't put all your eggs in one basket. And I'd put so much into my physical health. I think that I had kind of not taken the time to develop myself, mentally and intellectually, like I should have, to be a well-balanced human, because those are two very important sides. And so I think in some ways that was my body telling me to rest and kind of take this time to, re-examine myself and what I want in the future, instead of just pushing myself physically to be the best that I can. Because, there are some people I think who really develop themselves mentally, intellectually. They don't do anything for themselves physically. And so they have these great brains. They don't live very long. And you have these people who, develop these, great bodies, but don't challenge themselves intellectually. And they're not, able to really to contribute to the rest of the world, because they're just working on themselves physically, and that's it. And so that was an awakening for me at that moment to start. I began journaling, focusing more on my meditations in the morning. And I think that gave me a lot of confidence in those areas as well. And it seems like, and that's kind of going back to the very beginning of this conversation, we talk about what do men have? Is it a glow up? No, that was my hard reset. And it was certainly a hard reset, because I feel like at that moment in the fall, there was a full stop on what I was doing. It's like, okay, you really want to take it to the next level. You really want to develop yourself as a man. You need to start taking consideration of these other aspects of your life as well. And so that was a really enlightening moment for me.
Yeah, this was the first time I witnessed your back injury not just allow you to look at your physical health, but it actually allowed you to look at other levels of your life, like you were saying, mental, and just even your routines, and even just your connection to yourself on a deeper level. Like you were saying, you would put so much effort and energy into your physical body, and it made you realize, hey, like maybe there are some other aspects of life that are asking for more attention. And while it was really the back injury that sent you down that path, that was the first time that I saw you focus on something other than your physical health on a whole new level.
Mm.
And I know that even before this, I had just seen a lot of frustration in you in general on your day to day. There was just a lot of things that, especially like work related, you just weren't loving. It just wasn't your, ideal setup in life. And I think when you, at least from what I saw, when you experienced that weekend at the 10,000 event, it was, hey, there's this whole other world out there, and you experienced that and were in it, and then came down. And then kind of during that time where you were saying you kind of like you injured it and then you re-injured it again, like right after the event, there was still like you went back into that old energy, and it was almost like that second injury kind of finally took you out of it. And for what I saw, it was like you realized, hey, I can actually recreate that energy that I experienced at the 10,000 event, but with myself, because I saw you kind of transition back into that really light energy that I saw you come back with from the event, but you ended up doing it with yourself, with your own practices, like with your journaling, with your meditation, and just choosing to change your mindset. But it came off of that back injury because nothing in your external reality changed. You were still working the same job. You were still with the same people. Every single day from an external perspective looked exactly the same, but I watched you interact with the world differently. And I think that was one of the biggest changes. And so there was another event that then comes up. And I don't know at what point this event, the second 10,000 event, came into your space, because I think this is another really important piece of this story. Because one, so at the end of last year, I'm seeing you transition into a new routine, more journaling, more meditation, more just focusing on yourself, like you're saying, from a mindset perspective, not just physical. But then I watched as you sign up for this other event, and you can explain what the event was. And knowing where he had been with this whole back injury, and he signs up for this. And it's, what was it, at the end of January?
Yeah.
It was at the end of January, and I'll let him explain what it was in a moment. So just knowing that this is all going on, you're really not going to the gym very much, maybe here and there as you feel strong enough to do so. A lot of rucking, but then at that point you were also seeing a chiropractor or a physical therapist to just like help from a physical standpoint as well. So you're getting help externally. Like, yes, there was mindset work, but then you're also like, hey, I need to support my physical body and get some support from other people. So I watched you do this multi-layered approach. You focus more even on your diet, water, minerals. Yes, big things around here. I started doing some energy work sessions on you as well. And it was a full approach. It wasn't just, you didn't just focus on one thing. But I never have seen such intent. And this all started to happen because you wanted to go to this event in January. Yeah. So one, I want you to just kind of explain when this really came into your space, why you chose to sign up for it, even though your back is like 50 to 75% capacity at this point. And when you hear what the event is, you're going to be shocked. And I will give you a spoiler alert. He did it with flying colors. So don't worry, he's fine. But you had this goal in front of you, and it was like, nothing will stop me. And I just watched you use every tool available to you and more to get there. So explain that one.
Yeah, so around, I think it was early November, I got an email from one of the guys I had met in this fitness event I went to in New York. And he's like, hey, we're doing another one of these down in Miami, very end of January. Kind of a similar setup of a weekend, except at the very end of the weekend, we're all going to run the Miami Half Marathon with a 20-pound weighted vest. And, for a guy that was like, I think I read this email while I was like laying on my couch, like in a heating pad or something, like, still not able to stand up straight, really. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that just hurts to think about. Like, I don't know. And naturally I signed up. So, and I was like, you know what? I'll be good by then. I don't know what'll happen, but I'll make it work. And then again, going through the end of the year in December, still my back was 100%. And I started having these realizations to myself, like, I don't think I'm going to do this. Like, I don't I really don't think I can make this at this point. If they had that event right now, I wouldn't be able to do it. There's no way. I wouldn't be able to fly down there and do this whole weekend. So, yeah, very beginning of January, I remember I was like, I got to get some other help. I got to figure out something, whatever I'm doing now.
Oh, because January 1st, it got tight again.
Yes, yeah. Because I went and I helped some family put away some Christmas items. I think it was Christmas decorations, and um, I was going in and out of the attic, lifting boxes and stuff. And then I remember you and I went to camping, glamping, yeah, on New Year's with our dog who hates fireworks. That's a hilarious story. But yeah, I remember that weekend getting really sore again. And I was just like, nope, there's no way I'm making this event. It's in like 4 weeks. That's just, I'm going to have to call the guy and say, sorry, man, I'm not going to make it. But I was like, you know what? I mean, I'll wait and do that. Either way, I need to get this back fixed. So I remember I called a physical therapist up who I'd seen a few years ago who had helped me before, which was like the last time I'd had one of these kind of major events. And I went and saw her, and she was like, assessing me, and we were talking about my injury and stuff. And I was telling her about what happened. And she was like, I'm about 90% sure you've got a herniated disc. And I'd heard that term before, but I never really knew that was what the issue was with my back. And I'm not good at explaining things medically very well, but basically that means that your disc in your lower vertebrae, I forget which one it is. But basically what kind of binds your vertebrae together, there's like a slight tear in it. And every time you irritate it, it hits your nerves. And that's what that whole kind of spasm thing is.
So a lot of inflammation.
Yeah, a lot of inflammation. And so basically here I am thinking I'm just, over tight muscles that are irritated, and really it's like I got this herniated disc that is flaring up every time I do something stupid, like not rest or recover after working out for 6 days straight, 2 days. And so she gave me a whole new plan. I went and saw her, I think it was 3 times. I remember she asked me, well, she was telling me, she's like, during this time, I just want you walking, if you feel like running lightly, maybe like a mile or so, that's okay, but definitely no weights until we can get this thing kind of under control. And I was like, well, I got this event I signed up for. And I was like, she's like, what is it? And I remember telling her about the half marathon with the weighted vest down in Miami, and she was kind of this look like, can you run it without the vest? And I was just like, no, it's sort of like the whole point. I'm not gonna go down there and not do it without the vest. She's like, well, my opinion is no, but if you really have to, then and let's do this and this. And so she kind of gave me a game plan, and kudos to her because she really kind of helped me see my injury in a whole different way. And I started training. I mean, I wasn't doing any kind of weights in my gym, but I started running with a little bit of weight and was running a lot more than I usually do. And by the end of the month, after doing a lot of things and doing some work with you and really getting the inflammation down, I was able to confidently go to this event down in Miami, and I was able to work out the weekend. I was able to still kind of scale certain things in certain workouts we did. But when it got to the actual half marathon part, my back held up the whole time. It was really great. It was really difficult events. I mean, I'm not saying oh, it was great. Yeah, I knocked it out. No, I finished in just under 3 hours, and every bit of that was one of the most challenging things I've ever done physically, especially coming off that injury. But I remember crossing the finish line, 1, being in a lot of pain, but 2, just being, and really grateful and kind of seeing, I think that having that to look towards or to work towards gave me kind of something at the end of the tunnel, because I didn't really have anything at that point, before I got that email saying they were doing this event to really work towards. And I think that, especially with a lot of men, when they're given an objective or something they have to support or something they have to accomplish, it levels us up. Makes us a lot better in that sense. And so for me, that was like this one thing I needed. It's like, obviously, it wasn't a thing I had to go to. It was an event I had to go to, but me, it was like I really wanted to. It was just great guys, great people, and um, yeah. So I was able to pull that off. That was pretty great.
It's an incredible, incredible accomplishment. And not only just because of the event, but the fact of where your body had come from really a month before. I mean, I remember seeing you on January 1st and I was like, oh boy, this is like, I think the event was February 1st or something like that. So really end of January, beginning of February. And I was like, oh man. And yeah, I really saw you just put your foot down and say like, okay, this is not only something I want to do, but something I deeply desire. Like this is a community I really want to be around. Like you knew how it felt because you had already been to an event before and you knew that energy that was already going to be there. And I just watched you do everything in your power to get yourself there. And I think that time in your life, I just watched shift so much, not only how you treated your body physically and got the support that you needed, but then also mentally and emotionally as well. And I know that you were actually quite open to doing some suggestions and some work with me a little bit more than you ever have before. And, I don't like to completely put my opinions and work onto you, but I know that you just absorb a lot through osmosis and what I talk about. But that moment, you kind of gave a lot of reins and kind of threw up your hands and said like, at this point, I'll do anything. And not to say that that's where people have to get, but I remember being in that position myself like years ago. That's actually how I found a lot of the tools I use today is I got to a point where I'm like, I will literally try anything. And unfortunately, that's where it takes a lot of people to get to is the I'll try anything piece. But you end up exposing yourself to so many different tools and levels of awareness that maybe you hadn't before. And it helped. I mean, it really got you to a place. And now you've experienced the lows, you've experienced the highs, you've experienced everything in between. And what I saw you really go through, especially in January, was not only, really clawing your way back to strength and health and resilience on all levels, but I saw you really starting to trust yourself again. And I saw a whole new level of confidence again from that really light look that I saw in you when you came back from that first event to it being something that you created every single day. And I think that's actually started to create, from what I see, your new reality and you moving differently in the world. And so, yeah, I love that you had that event to really look forward to go to, because anyone in their right mind would say there's no freaking way you should be running a half marathon with a 20-pound weighted vest, specifically with a lower back injury. But not only did you do it, you did it without injuring yourself. So now, I mean, we've gone through this full cycle of this story of kind of like where you came from maybe 10 years ago to now. And there's been so much that has changed and evolved in your life, in your mindset, in how you take care of yourself, how you see yourself, the tools you expose yourself to, the support that you give yourself, the support you get from other people. So now moving forward, because really it's more of just a trajectory of going up, just becoming more resilient, becoming stronger in yourself, just wanting more out of life and not always having to go into this quantum crumble to get there. So now from where you're at today and what you've experienced, how are you moving through life and how do you see life differently now? Are you still working out the same? Are you still like, how are you, treating your body physically, mentally, emotionally? Like, how do you move forward to just continue to go up instead of making your quantum crumble be your catapult?
Yeah, I don't intentionally look for the that type of hard reset. Hard resets are good, but I don't think I want to intentionally go out and throw my back out again just so I can re-examine my life. No, I definitely a lot of balance, being intentional, but also um, listening to my body and realizing that there are multiple aspects that I can improve upon. It's not just always physically. I can always find ways to like read to improve myself, intellectually or spiritually. There is, ways that I can improve myself as, a husband, um, and there's not much to do as far as being a better dog father. Just like, he's pretty self-sustaining, but
He loves you a lot.
yeah, yeah. So certainly, I think just some balance, that's been helpful. And then, it's I think I don't know if I'd say it was like an obsession, but I think certainly I would, you know, get a little bit too aggressive with the physical workouts I was doing, and if I missed a day, I would be like, "Oh man, like that's not good," and which
Mhm.
is kind of a ridiculous way to think about it. I mean, um, there's so many other ways or things that I can be doing, to let my body recover and do something else. Because and especially in my type of work environment, something I look out to every day is getting out and moving around and being around other people that I enjoy, and kind of having that camaraderie and physical push. But it's also, I've found there's good times to kind of just be alone and to read and to write, and um, just finding things that you know improve myself, mentally, spiritually, physically, and then um, also just being with people that I love. And those are just immediate things that were always there that I guess I um, didn't always see as just things that could make myself better and make myself want to be a little more present. Um, so that's good. And I think there's certainly opportunity in the future where my back could have an injury again if I was, so inclined to do something, foolish like I did before. But now I don't feel that kind of pressure now. And I think I saw during that time with some of the work that we were doing, and like just normal dieting and, just regular, like natural therapies, and I can still be healthy without, doing these gregarious, like intense workouts that I was doing that my body was kind of shutting down on.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's a lot of things. It was a good reset. It was a good opportunity, and it sounds weird to say, but I was kind of grateful it happened.
I am just glad that that's recorded, because a few months ago or a year ago, I don't think there was any level of gratitude in any type of back injury that you had. And so to be on the other side to say that I'm actually grateful that this happened, I feel like is a whole level of alchemizing this experience. And that's how you know you're really on the other side. Like you can tell, like you said, like you don't feel that pressure anymore. It's because you are actually feeling this gratitude that it happened, and look at how much it taught you and look at how much you went through. So that's really cool to see as well. Just as someone who's witnessed and always wants to really help you, but doesn't want to just like push my ideas and opinions onto you. So it's it's cool to see. So if there is anyone out there listening to this is either going through chronic symptoms, health challenges, an injury of any kind, and they're in the thick of it. And you know this well, they're in the thick of it. They're frustrated. They feel like their body is broken, which we know that it's not, but that's how they're feeling right now. And they're in this moment where they feel like nothing is ever going to get better. They're going to feel this way forever. What would you tell that person?
Well, I think bodies are interesting. I think that listening to your symptoms certainly is important, not just avoiding them.
Mhm.
But understanding what's hurting, and then the underlying factors of that, the root cause, if you will, if you know anything about that.
Oh,
But
no, tell me.
um, I think that's really important. Um, but I would say, specifically, I would think to men, um, that it may, you know, it's an opportunity to kind of, you may look at that, say like your arm or your shoulder having issues, be like this, oh, one thing, oh, I've just got to get my shoulder fixed and I'm going to move on. And that maybe just be the case. Maybe it is just, isolated to just your shoulder, or it could be that it's connected somewhere else. I mean, that's why it's good to kind of look at, the whole body and kind of what's going on. Um, Maybe other areas that could be affecting that as well. And getting that assessed and what you can do differently instead of just trying to patch it up and move on.
Mhm.
Learn from it, um, see what you can do to reset it, and then go forward and take what you've learned, and not have that be something that inhibits you in the future over and over and over again. it took me only about 10 years to realize that. And I think in a lot of cases, it's inevitable. I don't think that age means that you um, lose your health, or certainly your body slows down, and there's certain things you have to kind of identify, but you just have to identify these certain things that you need to do to continue to allow yourself to be healthy getting older. Maybe it's like throwing in one more mobility exercise in the morning, or doing something different for your back, or maybe it's not having that much alcohol during the week. I think that was one big thing for me going into last year, is cutting back on that, because I realized I was just not able to recover and sleep like I used to, um, drinking as much as I was. So, um, there's a lot of things, but I would say just examining, the body as a whole, mentally and physically.
I mean, that is 100% what we're all about here. So I'm glad that you were able to experience that for yourself, unfortunately, in a not so fun scenario. But yeah, just for anyone who really resonates with this story and is maybe in the thick of it, just know that it's not going to be forever, but also two, your body is really talking to you. So leaning into what your body is actually saying is going to lead you to the healing you're looking for. Well, I so appreciate you being on the podcast, our very first guest and your very first podcast episode. So thank you so much for being here. I think this story is going to really support a lot of people. And, I'm just really grateful that you were willing to come on and tell it to our listeners. So before we end, is there anything else you would like to add before we close out this episode?
No, hey, I'm just glad that I was in town, and I live close by to be able to be on this show, and it worked out with my schedule. So thank you. No, this was great. I really enjoyed hearing a lot of things that you've had to say on the previous shows, and I think that you give a lot of good insight that kind of go in line with like my experience, and of course I hear it from you pretty often. But I those are things that I relay to people I know as well, and I think that you're doing great work, and I think that the way you look at the body as a whole is the way that a lot of people can learn from to be their most healthy self. So thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so sweet. All right, that is all we have today. Jared, thank you so much for being with us. And for our very first guest episode, you can look forward to some more in the future when we get some more people on. But for now, thank you so much for being with us. And yes, for traveling all the way from down the hall. We really appreciate you squeezing us into your very busy schedule. And if you have not already, make sure you follow us on Spotify, also subscribe on YouTube, and give us a rating on Apple Podcasts. It really helps us get this podcast out to other listeners so that they can also hear Jared's story, heal themselves, and really just understand the body in a whole new way so that we can be a higher thriving, healthy society and healthy collective and community. So that is all we have for today, folks. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Have a great one. Bye, everyone.